Hello and welcome everyone to another Drop Kickoff podcast. Sorry, it's been I think 2 weeks since we did one. It's been a while since I was last on. I'm speaking quite fast today because you might lose me at any second. This bloody internet malarkey. As always, I'm joined by Nick and Nathan.
Hello.
What?
Now, quick fire oddball question that we do. Nathan, this is just to you. Which Australian city has the most people, Sydney or Melbourne?
That's a very good question. You look at the ABS, I believe it is Sydney.
Oh,
It's
you
Sydney.
absolute pricks.
Correct. All right.
You absolute pricks.
Case closed on that one.
Oh, my God.
We rapid fire. Nick's slowing us down over there with his false news.
Oh, my God. It's one fact, one comment or one stat in an article, and it's already up for intense debate.
Whose article?
And my article on the Raw, where I mentioned that Melbourne is the largest populated city in Australia. And I swear that there was a whole thing, like there was a whole big hullabaloo last year about it. But apparently, while urban area there's more people, the classification system on the ABS qualifies that Sydney is still the most populated city in Australia. I feel duped, and I can see Nathan is punching the air.
Yes, everyone. Nick wrote an article in which he wrote the following passage. It's been compared to Hunter S. Thompson, Shakespeare, and Socrates. Honestly,
by you
and Christy Doran. Honestly, being an Australian rugby fan is a bit like being a marathon runner, except you don't know where the finish line is. Now, Nathan, finish line, marathon, okay, I understand this kind of metaphor here. You don't know where the finish line is, and you don't know if you're about to stumble straight into your own vivisection. Nathan, how do you feel about being cut open for a science experiment in a marathon metaphor?
You know, it's provocative. It gets the people going.
Yeah.
In the words of a famous other poet, a very controversial poet.
Yeah, very controversial. But yes, that was our own Nick Wasilio, published author. With that one.
I know it's. I know sometimes this is the reason why we sometimes have an editor, but I stand by this metaphor because
sometimes have an editor. Our podcast is better edited.
Yeah,
hey Tony, how's it going?
No, but I stand by the metaphor because I'm not going to lie, Australian rugby has put me in a lot of pain over the last few years, and it has felt comparable to a vivisection. I still remember the aftermath of that Wales game. I was depressed.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you're getting cut open though?
Emotionally, definitely.
Worse.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we start talking about the Wallabies squad, Nathan, I'll ask you: Do you feel this Wallabies squad makes you feel like you've been, death by 1,000 cuts, being cut open, Bunsen burner, whatever kind of metaphor you're thinking?
I feel like it's more like freshly released out of hospital. Like you might have just been under sort of like the beeps was slowing down. You almost flatlined for a little bit, and just that boop, boop, boop. And we've gone through that stage. We're going through, and now it's like I've just been like out of hospital. I'm free. I've got almost sort of my responsibilities as a human comes back, and I'm starting to feel like re-energized again. I like the squad. I like the squad a lot.
Nick, how would you compare? I mean, I haven't read this full article, but do you have any laboratory or like gruesome kind of metaphors to describe how you feel looking at the squad?
Well, I mean, like the initial first thoughts that some people go with is kind of a Frankenstein's monster. So, like, interstitial bits and ideas cut together may be seen as the case, but I feel like it's not necessarily kind of correct. I think that's my thoughts and feelings about it now is that there's a lot of fresh meat. There's a lot of new arrivals. I'm particularly thinking that the decision to actually bring in 13 new boys, 13 debutants is a very bold move, but it is counterweighted quite nicely with a very experienced coaching squad. I love that the coaching team that Joe Schmidt has assembled, but my God, he has got a lot of work to do. And even though they are brilliant rugby brains, there are some people that may say some more experienced heads, maybe from overseas, might be necessary. I am a bit more optimistic about that. I think it is still a pretty decent squad, and there are some very good experienced heads in there that we will get onto. Of course, there's the elephant in the room in terms of a certain player from the Western Force that has also made it, that everyone keeps talking about. But I like this squad too. I really do. I'm with Nathan on this one.
Yes. So I feel we probably should read out the squad, or maybe read out some highlights. Maybe just every second player I can read here. So like you said, a couple standards in there, heavyweights, Alan Alatoa, Fraser McRae, James Slipper, Tanya Slipper. Sorry, I just moved past Valentini, Jake Gordon, Nick White, all that. Tom Wright's back, and then like a ton of new kids coming through to kind of give it a fresh look. Nathan, Nick mentioned before the big number coming through, which is Kurtley Beale.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Kurtley?
I don't think it's as big of a shock as everyone's making out. Like for us sickos that were watching, the 10 p.m. games out at Perth on East Coast or late time, like he was balling. Like he's got his last 12 to 18 months is quite problematic. We're not going to sort of shy away from that. But when you look at his rugby form over the past sort of 7 to 8 weeks he's been back, he's been a very steady hand for the Force. He is still the type of player you can chuck on the last 10 or 15 minutes of a game, say Kurtley do something, and he will do something special. I think also with the sort of 13 uncapped players, you have a lot more need for a older head and older mentor, particularly around that sort of playmaker position. When you've got, I think Noah Alessio might be your most cap 10 in that squad. Like you need somebody else to sort of see these guys through and help them in those tough times, and Kurtley might be just that perfect person for it. So I think he's deserved this place in. And it's sort of that idea of this is all of a sudden a shocker of bolter. Like he hasn't come from club rugby. He's been playing some good, consistent footy to get himself into the spot.
He does. He looks, just a small point to add on that, I do agree on this, and I think that one thing that I've been really impressed by is just he seems a lot calmer. Sometimes in the past, whenever we'd look at Kurtley, there was one, he kind of had that ability to kind of come up with rugby on the fly. But in all honesty, like he seems like a much more relaxed head, and as a result is kind of focusing in on where to pick and choose his battles on a rugby field a lot more, which is freeing up for someone like Ben Donaldson over at the Western Force, and he can insert himself a lot better. So I think he's perfect for that back line in terms of just not just an experienced head, but someone who I reckon can provide a lot of calm in that environment and in that space. There's a lot to like. I really do. And everyone who says, Beale, blah, blah, Beale over the hill, I actually think, considering it is a squad that needs a lot more experienced heads, he's ideal right now.
Like his 35-year-old brain full of experience has been transformed and sort of cut open into like a 22, 23-year-old fresh, ready to sort of give that energy to the squad. I like it.
Yes, like a jacket potato, peeling out the skin, turning it inside out.
If you're on Gagga's YouTube, there's a whole bunch of metaphors that are just happening on like in real time that Nick and Nathan are dropping in. Like for some reason, you guys are relentless.
Yeah, we are relentless.
This is how we work.
We are.
It's just internal bullying.
So like a potato with electrodes. Are there any shocks in this squad?
I'll start with this. I think in terms of surprises, Angus Blythe will be one. I think just a lot of the people sort of look at your second row depth and thought of Darcy Swain or Josh Cannon would have got there. Blythe is just sort of one of these hard-nosed, real sort of does the dirty work, puts his head in places where most normal human beings probably shouldn't, and just gets through a mountain of work, which I like. I've also probably throw Ryan Smith in there as well, even though he's so deserving of it. He just gets through so much work in your attacking ruck and that little stuff which you just don't see. And so for a back, I'd probably say David Felawai. Sort of killed it for the Rebels, but probably I think people have had a couple of centers ahead of him. Maybe someone like a Lalakai Feketi, but like he's got an awesome story. You know, playing Romanian club rugby before coming back to sort of Queensland and then getting picked up by the Rebels. Like he's someone that's gone a long way and just deserves a call up. So I think they're big boulders out on the squad, but it's a lot of just underrated guys that you look at and go, yeah, it's about time they got a call up.
So, Nick, would you say, without knowing precisely what the danger Wales poses to the Wallabies is, would you say it's time for our listeners to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside?
Oh, absolutely. Nothing like a good bit of goo cracking. It's the thing that kind of extending on Nathan's point with this squad is that while there is a lot of new blood in there, I mean, I think that's done for a couple of reasons. Probably to re-energize all of the players that went through the experience that was the 2023 World Cup campaign. Let's be honest, that would be a freaking awful experience to have gone through. To be a part of, it's a part of Wallaby history that no one would like to be a part of. In all honesty.
Hey, so if I just pause for a second there. How many players from that from the World Cup squad that aren't like, your James Slippers are in this squad? Like, any shocks? Obviously, Carter Gordon's not there because he's made a
no. Well, I mean, like there's
creative decision.
I mean, like there's your Slippers, your Valentinis. I mean,
guys like your Tom Hoopers,
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost. They're probably ones which are sort of still. Fraser McWright, Donos, Tate McDermott.
Yeah.
These are you guys that are still sort of, at the middle of their careers trying to build on, coming off a first World Cup. But I think there's only about 13 or 14 overall that have remained from that French campaign.
And that can come with some risks, I think, because there's still a lot of people and cohesion that's still to come together. There is. I think that speaking on the topics of people who I think maybe are coming in a little too early, if I'm 100% honest, I love Charlie Cale, but he's only had 2 seasons of Super Rugby, and I think that maybe he might have been best suited, even though I think it's clear that he's definitely going to be a Wallaby. And the Brumbies literally had to move Valentini around to get him into that squad. Personally, I think that it might not be a bad thing to give him 1 more year, but obviously Joe is seeing something that I'm not. I do think Jeremy Williams is a really good inclusion. I know there'd been some chat about whether Isaac Rodder was going to be in the squad or not, and I think he's now made the decision to go over to France. Again, after just such a tough run of injuries, but he seemed to be really getting into form again. So Williams is a good inclusion. I think he's kind of a very good experienced head in there. And I'm just so glad to see Hamish Stewart in there. I'm not going to lie. I really rate him. And I know for a fact folks like Rugby Reg really rate him as well. He's a good player, really, really good player. And he's looked quite good over at the Force. My worry is just I can see that there's a reason that Joe has picked a sizable amount of players from a lot of those sides. There's still a lot of question marks though, but a lot of head cracking will happen.
Great to hear. I love feasting on some goo myself. One player I probably just want to point out is Tom Wright coming back. He's really kind of bounced back from. Just when he was dropped last year from Eddie Jones, not that he's alone in this, but it was very harsh on him to get dropped from Eddie Jones's team. A lot of people were in that true Australian rugby fashion, basically bullying one guy and then finding out he's actually not that bad of a player. So it's great to see him come back in. It'd be great to see what he can do.
It's a Ned Huntington experience.
Yeah, Ned Hannigan version, yeah.
He's basically the the back equivalent of Ned Hannigan.
Ned Hannigan
Hannigan,
took over
but
the
now-
mantle from Rob Simmons.
It's just
Yeah.
it's a
Or
constant
maybe
cycle.
Foley.
So, honest question though for both of you guys. I mean, Wales and Georgia coming up with this squad. I know that even though Wales have not exactly lit the world on fire, the big difference between the two sides that I initially noticed right off the bat is that Wales are only coming to Australia with 3 uncapped players as compared to 13. And my first thoughts are, well, obviously there is a bit more of a whatever the hell is going on in that squad, and clearly they're not firing. They didn't have a good Six Nations either. I do worry about the amount of experience and also the fact that even though they're not firing right now, I mean, Warren Gatland knows Wales. He's been in that environment for a very long time. What do we think here?
Crab juice. They're awful.
I'm not as confident. I don't know why. I'm just not as confident.
They were very close to coming last. I think Italy were very unlucky in the Six Nations, but Wales would have come last by far, I believe. The worst out of the rest of the team.
They still did come last comfortably.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They just got spanked by South Africa, but that was in South Africa. Plus, all of their URC teams, which is United Rugby Championship, which they play with Scotland and Italy and Ireland and South Africa. All their teams, like one team, scraped in to the top 8, and I think that was only because they got to play the Welsh teams twice, kind of like in the old conference style that they've got. And I know Warren Gatland, maybe because he went to the Chiefs and didn't do a whole lot. And then he's gone back to Wales and hasn't really done a whole lot with them. So, look, not to say that Australia might fall over, but
even despite that, we still lost them 40-6. We still lost them 40-6, and they were shit last year. Let's not put a bow on it. They were terrible last year as well.
But again, you now got a lot of those players have moved on. You, George, and also the world, and these guys. Like, this is a squad which there's already signs of infighting with. Another hooker sort of going away. Nicholas Spray. I'd say one of I think the third choice hooker who was brought in, basically, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, was brought in, essentially told you're going to be holding the bags, and basically didn't like that and has walked away from the squad. Man, I can't remember. Sam Parry, that's his name. Sam Parry. Scored into the squad and now moved away. No Jack Morgan, their captain, who absolutely blitzed us in Leon in the back row there. Like, there's a lot of players missing from this Welsh side. So I think in terms of first up games to get for any Australian, like new Australian coach, Joe Schmidt might have the best when you consider Eddie had South Africa in South Africa. Dave Rennie had, I think it was New Zealand and Wellington. I think even then he got a draw out of that. Like, to get a team who's essentially, there's a bit of infighting, like there's a mess sort of in the back room. Like, this is sort of a perfect way just to launch 13 new players and just attack it, in my opinion. So I reckon I'm 100% Wales are there for taking.
Yeah, I really agree. And look, Wales are so bad, Nick, that they're ranked below Australia.
Look, to be honest, it's just the fact that it's just the fact that we've been so starved of success. Maybe it's, again, this is the vivisection we talked about at the start of it's the metaphor that it still haunts me. When was the last time Australia had actually had a decent amount of back-to-back wins? I mean, it's been it's been a while, and 2022. So 2 years. 2 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, but I like it as a sort of the rescued dog from the shelter. You know, the owner that's come in may have mistreated him. We have a new one that's come in. Like, it's just the dog's still shaking as you're going to go trying to pat it and make sure it's okay. Like, get a couple of wins. I'm hoping that feeling goes away. That sort of get that comfort. And you go, all right, this is a different side. You know, as you said,
got carers. They're going to give him a wash. They're going to give him a trim, clean him up, give him some training.
No more NRL or AFL coaches to try and do the same thing and wondering why he's not responding to the training that well, and you know, everything.
Plenty of treats. Yeah, plenty of treats.
Yeah, sorry, just go back to Six Nations for a sec. I was thinking Italy were very unlucky because they lost to England by a couple of points, I think, and drew with France. But Wales came last, way last. Italy with 2 wins and a draw. So yeah,
they were proper crab juice. You're right. Even though there was narrow losses there to Scotland, Italy, and England, but like still for their standards, still pretty crab juice.
Yeah, absolute crab juice. But yeah, so I look. You said we're starved of wins. We're definitely not starved of hubris in Australian rugby. So I don't want to say Australia's amazing, but yeah, I'm thinking that for Nathan. Like even with Schmidt with missing a ton of players out injured or overseas or leaving, which I guess that's worthy of a podcast. Why is everyone leaving? But yeah, I think it's a really good chance for Schmidt, and Schmidt's got the plus that he's basically using a domestic team.
Yeah, and
Nathan just did the taxes at me. The finger thing means the taxes, but
finger thing means the tax. That's right. Finger thing means the tax. I think also there are certain couple of players that got left out as well, which honestly actually makes me feel a lot better about how he's treating this process and because of the rationale behind it. Guys like Tim Ryan, Josh Cannon, who's gone, they're really exciting talents, but let's give them an extra year. Let's see what happens. Like it's kind of that, he doesn't want this sort of rare steak. He just wants and he doesn't want them blue just thrown in there. Like he wants it, perfectly medium rare, and give him an extra sort of 6 or 12 months. So I think it's an exciting. All in all, to sum it up, it's just a really exciting squad. I'm not going to buy into this being one of the weakest squads that we've had, like certain other people, but I think this is actually a squad that can really do some damage.
Yeah, jeez.
I disagree with CD. What can I say?
Yeah, well, nothing
I'm a
new there.
propaganda machine. I'm a propaganda machine. I have to say these things. Phil Waugh is off screen with a gun to my head. I have to.
Yeah, he's been traveling enough. Of course, he'd be in your just hanging out behind you there. Of course.
Great. Okay. Unless you guys have anything more to say about the squad, we can move on.
I mean, I think we'll probably talk just before the first Wales test in a week or two's time, when the international season is there proper. But I mean, there's it's a young, exciting squad, but there's a lot to like, and Joe Schmidt had turned around Ireland for a reason. So imagine what that man can do with 4 training sessions in a bit of time, particularly with the caliber of quality talent all around him in the coaching ranks. I'm hoping they work wonders.
Yeah, and a bit of personal news. Pretty excited. I might be able to go to all 3 tests in July. How exciting! Because I'll actually be down in Melbourne for the second test.
Yeah, and your foot's not broken either, so you can actually get to them.
I can do the walking. Yeah, I can.
Fuck
yeah. So moving on. What else do I have to speak about? Quick shout out to Jake White, coach of the Bulls, who lost to the Glasgow Warriors in the URC final at home in the High Veld. Just shout out to Jake White because he said the refs let the away team win. Great to see some. Yeah,
doesn't sound like him. Doesn't sound like a South African at all.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great to see South Africans again being upstanding rugby citizens.
Yes.
But to go take it home, Blues Chiefs Super Final. To be honest, I mean, it's all kind of rope-a-dope. The final, I guess the best kind of game is the Reds in the first half against the Chiefs, or the Brumbies playing fairly well, but it's just kind of out of reach for everyone. And the Blues, who, of course they do, coached by former Scotland coach Vern Cotter, romped away with competition. And if I'm not mistaken, Geordie Barrett's joining the Blues next year, unless I misheard that.
I think Bowden's coming back. I don't think Geordie's going back.
Okay. Anyway, look it up.
He was up to Leinster for a little bit.
All right, okay. Leinster, Auckland. Always get them confused. But what do we think about this final?
Chiefs got cooked.
Yeah, it was.
Chefs got cooked.
Yeah, look, to be honest, everyone else was kind of being like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be a great game and everything," and I just thought to myself, while the Chiefs did, a really good number on the Hurricanes and their Reds to get there by just blitzing them in the first half. That this time they were coming up against the best attacking side and the best defending side in the comp, and most likely the cards they had played in the first half blitz had already been played. So the Blues were probably expecting something. Plus, let's just be honest here, the Blues are so direct and so physical. They had to come up with something new, and turns out they just didn't have anything. Even D-Mac didn't smile. That's how cooked it was. So no smile for D-Mac. But look, the only small comfort I got was at least the Brumbies offered more resistance when they got pumped in their semi. That's the only thing I could really think about it watching it, was just like, well, technically, we offered a bit more competition in our semi-final the week before. The Chiefs just struggled to fire a shot all match. And you know what? Blues were like, even though the Hurricanes were ahead most of the season, the Blues were the more threatening looking side of the whole comp. And the more I was watching them, the more I just thought, yeah, they've earned it. They've really earned this. And what a turnaround for the Books. It was only a few years ago that they were the much maligned, bullied child of the Kiwi rugby sides, and how far they've come over the last couple of years. They're a dangerous side, and for the love of God, Hoskins Sotutu is a terrifying player. How the hell he didn't get into that All Black side is beyond me.
I mean, the Waratahs of New Zealand, like the big, what should be the capital, the biggest.
Except they win. Except they win
in the country. But just like with all this sort of talent and all these big name players that just put it all together, it should actually give hope to Waratahs fans that all you need is a certain experienced head coach, maybe one that's just come available, or I don't know, maybe coaching in England, these apprenticeship in the nation's capital.
Don't tell me who that is. Checker. Yeah, perfect. Checker, definitely.
No. Bad. Never again. No, but in all seriousness, like, this was a Blue side with just big name players that all of them stood up. Like the Iwani brothers were on a mission to make sure Akira went out with the title. They were excellent. Caleb Clark reminds people why he's just one of the best wingers on his day, and really has given Scott Robinson something to think about with the bevy of options that they have there with Talia, Moni Nawari, Josh Morby, all these sort of guys just pushing their case. Even Ruben Love in a wider squad there, like Nana Saturu. Like, there's so much depth there. It's incredible. Yeah, likewise too. Can we find like an Australian grandparent in there? Just asking. Can we get like an ancestry test and get some connection that can get him over here? Because like, the All Blacks won't pick him. We'll take him. He's a freak of a player, and it's just such a damaging runner, such damaging all-round place.
We need to be careful, though, because I know for a fact that Simon Ra-Louis has been kind of saying something similar on Twitter and was like, come over here. You've got Fijian heritage. Come on.
Yeah, so the Waratahs then hire Simon, and he gets in his ear, and we find a connection.
Fuck yeah, we're in. I like it. You're onto something. Is it actually true, though, that Simon might actually get the Waratah? He's in contention for the Waratah gig.
Well, I mean, according to CD at the Raw, it's down to two people, Nick Stiles and Simon. My personal choice would be Simon. I love what he did with Fiji and just turn around that culture. I think he'd be the perfect fit for it. I think Nick Stiles has done a similar job at the Rebels, but I think Simon's the man that can sort of lead that place forward. So I'm guessing they'll make a call on that in the coming sort of days and weeks, but we'll wait and see.
And that's Super Rugby.
Yeah, that is
for
Super
another
Rugby.
year.
That is
for another year.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't really think we have a whole lot to talk about. Congratulations to the Blues. Congratulations to Jake White. And congratulations to all the fellas who got picked in the Wallabies squad. I think that's about it for us.
I'm excited. I'm kind of now, Nathan. You've put a spring back in my step, and when we're back for a new international season, a new season in a week or 2 weeks from now. It's I'll get hype. Let's get hype. Time for some Wallabies. Time for some green and gold.
Go back from.
Hell yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining for this very quick pod. It's great to have you listening to us. It really helps with us. And thank you, boys, for joining us. And thank you for all the vivisection laboratory metaphors.
Metaphors literally make the world go round, man. And keeping in line with all of the metaphors for our listeners, please let us sell our souls. Subscribe, leave us a nice review, or don't, or do. It would be nice because this is the one place where we can let loose and just be fans. And we hope you like it.
Thank you for doing my job for me, Nick. Thank you. But thanks, everyone. Yep, listen to what Nick said. Leave us a review, like, and subscribe. And we'll catch you when we next do a podcast.